What is good, everyone? Welcome back to the Uncle Sharma channel, and here we are for the biggest match of the season for Inter. I don't have any other words for it. And joining me very graciously from Sweden, I got my guy Sia, Eurosport journalist. I know most of you guys probably know about him already. Thank you, Sia, for joining me and previewing this match. How are you doing, man?
Thanks for having me. All good. Fired up for the game to come. Fired up to be on this show. Good work by you always. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yes, man. Thank you. And just before we came on live, our buddy Antonio Conte jumped on the mic. They asked him a few questions, and I know you just got to see a few of those quotes, and I was not impressed with some of those quotes out there. So one of them, well, I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, I think it was very much a repeat of what he said last year, that, Juve is the team to beat. Juve has been winning 9 years in a row. We have to prove that we can reduce the gap. Last year we came close, but they're still the team to beat. I feel it's a minor shot at Milan as well, because everyone is talking about Milan, but very few are talking about Juve. And I agree with him that they're the team to beat, but I don't think they've shown the same stability this last season. However, I think also if you go into this game, it would be more reassuring to hear something like, we will give everything we got. We're here. We want to show that we can compete, because, just talking about how good Juve are in a season where they are beatable and look a bit fragile, like they haven't done, I think that's what you'd like to hear. But I'm thinking Conte probably wants to put the pressure on Juve to be the team that comes out, and Inter to be a bit more relaxed.
Yeah. As you said, like there's nothing wrong with what he said. It's just that, I don't know, for me, I don't want to hear my coach, saying these kind of things, but I guess you could be right. He's, trying to put the pressure on Juve. And, people have been saying that, all the pressure's on Inter. Antonio Conte has to win. Inter have to win. But then Antonio Conte quite rightly pointed, they won the Scudetto last year, and they added Chiesa, they added Kulusevski, they added Arthur to that team that already won the Scudetto. McKennie. And, these are all, McKennie maybe wasn't, expected to be this big signing, but he's probably turned out to be the best signing out of all of those guys. So the squad...
Conte always likes to say that his club spent money. What Inter didn't, and so he's kind of obsessed with that thing. But I think what he means is an already strong team added strong players, but no one doubts how good the squad Juve is. They changed coach from a really good coach to an unproven one, and I think if we could focus a bit on that, or if Conte could focus a bit on that, it would be interesting for us to hear, because last year he said everything about, Inter started over, I'm a new coach, the team is new, it's not a project, it's the first year. But, when that happens to Juve, it seems he forgets it a bit. So that would be interesting to hear his thoughts about.
Yeah, well, I hope after this match there's no excuses, though, because I don't think this year he has any excuses anymore. He's been with this team 1.5 years. Last year, he lost both those matches. I think that's where, that's the matches where convinced me last year that UK were not Scudetto material. I didn't believe it last year anyway. But this year, in my prediction, Serie A prediction, I said that Inter would win the Scudetto, and this is where I'll judge whether I was right or wrong. These two matches, this one and the next one will probably be decided depending on how we do. But what do you think about Antonio Conte's big, is labeled as a big match flop? Do you agree?
Both yes and no. I think last year, in most big games, Inter performed very well. I remember the Barca game away, where Inter played some of their best football, but to come and lose. And I think we have to acknowledge that, Inter faces better teams when they come against Juve. This year, I feel Juve still has a better squad than Inter. Not if you check player by player, it's quite even, but I think they got good at alternatives. And something I'm missing in Inter squad is the 1-versus-1 beat your man. I think if you look at Milan, I think they have 4 or 5 or 6 players that are really good at beating their man. I think if you look at Napoli, it's the same. If you look at Juve, it's the same. But at Inter, it's Hakimi and, on a good day, Lautaro, Lukaku with his speed, but he's not a dribbler. So I think that's what I'm missing at Inter's team. But if you check at his big match, this season, I see the tweet you've put up. I
Chef
think
King.
against Lazio, Inter were the by far better team, deserved to win. Against Milan, it's the same. Against Real, it's the same. Against Atalanta, it's the same. I think the few really bad matches that Inter played amongst these is against Napoli, where Inter actually won. So it's funny in football because we might be here saying that he's not a big match coach, but the only time he won, Inter played really bad. So this season, Inter hasn't came up against the big teams, but I think last season they came up, they did well. I think it's more true when you look at his European record. I mean, Conte in Europe has been a big flop, and that's not only at Inter, that's at Juve as well. So in Europe, I think he's missing something, but in Italy, I can't really complain.
Yeah, no, I think, you're spot on in terms of performances. I've always been saying, everyone's always been criticizing, but there's been very few matches in this season where I feel like Inter were not the better team on the pitch. As you said, that Real Madrid second leg, definitely, maybe, that Napoli match for sure, we didn't probably deserve to win it, but pretty much every other match, even the last match against Roma, I feel like we outplayed those guys for 70 minutes until the last, few minutes, where I don't know if it's a Conte's substitutions. Do you think it's that? Because I feel like he goes to this 5-4-1 when he's defending a lead. But then at the same time, is it just the players' mentality that just kind of, sit back rather than keep going for the next goal? What do you think?
I think it's a mix, because when you sub out Hakimi and Lautaro, you're telling the team we're now going to lie back and try to strike, on the counter. The problem is there was nobody to counter on.
Yeah.
Because Lukaku wasn't activated at all in the last 20. Hakimi is the only guy who can go on a counter, because Perisic is good, but he's not a counter-attack player in the same way that he was before. And, he can beat his man, but the speed in 1-versus-1 is not the same as Hakimi. So he could have put on Sanchez maybe to get someone who's just, keeping the ball and activating Lukaku. I think he should have kept Hakimi. Because Hakimi in that situation of the match is at his best, because the opposition has to go forward and he can lie back and then take the run when there's an occasion. So I think there's a mix. Conte substitutions, and obviously I think Inter players in very many situations don't really know how to handle. Like, this team can't really defend the lead. I can't remember the last time I felt safe when this team had, even a 2-goal lead and defended it calmly. I don't know, like, if you check the Europa League final when Sevilla scored 3-2 and it's like 25 minutes left, I don't think Inter had a good attack in none of those 25 minutes, because they wasted time. They took down the tempo. They kept the ball at Inter's half, but Inter doesn't manage to do that. And that's also up to the players, because I don't think there's enough winning mentality in this team. And the winning mentality that was supposed to be brought by Vidal, for example, hasn't shown.
Well, yeah, moving on to the players that you just mentioned there, Vidal. I know you're a big fan. I've seen your tweets about Vidal before he came in, and he obviously has been a bit of a disappointment, but I've been kind of defending him. Obviously, at some points you can't defend him, like the stuff against Crotone and Real Madrid in the Champions League is just undefendable. But I feel like he's not been as bad as some people say, but we definitely need him to step up to a next level. And if he does it in a match like this, all Inter fans will forgive him for whatever's gone on this season. And he's rumored to be starting in the midfield. Him, Barella, Brozovic, Vidal is rumored to be the starting midfield. Obviously, the back line, we know Skriniar, De Vrij, Bastoni. And on the wings, Hakimi and Ashley Young is rumored to be starting as the wing backs. But I think it's a 50-50 between Ashley Young and Darmian, because Darmian has recovered from his injury. And obviously up top we got Martinez and Lukaku. But yeah, what do you make? Do you think that's the team? That's the team to beat Juve? And is that team good enough to beat Juve?
I think that's the team Inter has, and that's the team that has to do it. There isn't many alternatives on for the guys to beat Juve. Darmian or Young or Perisic. I mean, I think Perisic usually plays when you have to go more on the offense, and Young and Darmian when you have to be a bit more defensive. Depends. I think if Chiesa plays on the right wing, so there's two ways to do it, right? Otherwise, either you put Darmian there, who can defend well and join attacks at times, or you put Perisic there, who's going to push Chiesa down as much as he can, but obviously having a safety risk. I feel safe with Darmian. He's Italian, he knows his ways, and when he has to defend, I think the left wing with Bastoni and whoever's played in front has been suffering a bit. I think the right wing has been really good with Skriniar and Hakimi and Barella. As for the rest, I agree. Vidal, I think he usually puts in good performances, but in too many games, he's found a way to throw it away. He's caused the penalty, he's caused the goal, he's been sleeping, And I think physically wise, he's not there to perform the way Conte wants him to perform in this team, because he played for Barca. They keep 80% of the ball, 70% of the ball, 65% of the ball. They lose the ball, they pressure intensely for 10 or 15 seconds, and they regain it, and he's really good at that. But at Inter, it just hasn't worked out so far with this play. But I agree, and I think it's a bit of a do or die match for him today, because he was brought in to win this kind of game, and so far he hasn't done that, and probably he should now. I don't expect him to win the game or score a goal, but I expect him to perform and lead these guys, because if we look at this lineup, him and Young are the only ones who won something. Lukaku with Manchester, yeah, but it's still Vidal is the by far most capped and titled player in this team, so he has to lead the way.
Do you think he's dusted physically? Some people saying he's dusted.
No, I think he has a lot to give, but I think in a season like this with Corona and with a lot of games, I think he needs a bit of time. I think he needs to come into it. He obviously has the national team trips and games that they play. So for an old guy like that, Cristiano Ronaldo is one of a kind. But if we think about Zlatan, for example, who's also very physically strong, if he was going to play national team games as well, which he might do in the next half year, it's going to be a different situation. Also, Chile, in difference from Sweden, is very far long trip, jet lag, very, 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 very bad stadium. Sometimes you go to Bolivia and you play at like 3,000 meters height. You don't breathe. It's so many of those things play in. I think Conte should have rotated him more, because he obviously has the changes and he can give him a rest instead of insisting on playing with him. Because if you see Eriksen, who's got couple of chances, and then you see Vidal, who's got a lot of chances, and one of them has been benched for the whole season and one of them is playing all the time, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you've touched on. I was just about to ask that question about the different treatment of Vidal compared to Eriksen. It seems like Vidal, obviously we know he's his boy. He's like his son almost, and he'll give him as many chances as needed. But with Eriksen, is like anything half wrong is that's it. He's out of the team for the next month or two. What do you make of that? Like, what did this like? You as you said, like he could have used Eriksen, even if he's not going to start him. You can use him to let other players rest at the end of matches.
I think he should have done that more, and I think that was a problem last season as well, because he insisted with Barella and Sensi and whoever it was that started last season, and didn't play Gagliardini, didn't play Borja, and then in the last half of the season, those two guys were playing every game, and then in the first half of the season, Brozovic, of course, everyone got injured. And that's a big problem, because if you would have rotated, then you wouldn't be crying after the games about the players being tired or physical status and stuff like that. So, of course, Vidal is Conte's guy and all that, but I think Eriksen, he runs a lot. He is fast. He can be a good player. And at this stage, when I see Eriksen today, I don't feel he's a bad football player. I just feel he's a guy who needs a bit more self-esteem. He needs a goal. He needs an assist. He needs to do something that turns things around, and that's very hard to do if you're not playing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think he obviously could have rotated more and done some more rotations with Eriksen, but he's a system coach. That's the thing with Conte that many don't understand. He doesn't like individual quality if it doesn't match the system. He's very much like Guardiola in this. I don't want to compare them like otherwise, but in the Guardiola system, you have to throw yourself under the system first, and then you have to think about individual quality. Conte is even more rigid, because if Guardiola gives a bit of freedom, in the last third to his creative players, do whatever you want, Conte has none. It is the system. So Lukaku works very well. Lautaro Martinez works very well, but Christian Eriksen is very tough for Conte to use.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's an ideologue, so yeah, he's not going to move from his ideas. You're not going to convince him otherwise. He's very set in his ways. But yeah, no, I'm as you said, I'm pretty happy with that team. I think that is our best. I think if Sensi had legs, I think that Sensi would come in for Vidal. But I think that's pretty much our best lineup. And Darmian, as you said, over Young, because I think Young has had a pretty poor season actually this year. I think he's been a little bit gone under the radar, how poor he has been in a lot of matches. He was good against Roma when he came on last week, but in general, for me, he's not been good enough, especially compared to last season. So I would rather see Darmian. But it depends, as you said, going on to the Juve team, it was rumored that Chiesa might even move to the left-hand side just to, marshal Hakimi, because obviously he's a big threat. And apparently Pirlo is thinking about moving Chiesa, who has a lot of good, hard work. He covers the ground very well, to just, push Hakimi back even, when he's attacking. So that will be interesting to see whether he goes for Ramsey or Chiesa on that side, or even start Kulusevski, or another guy who can cover the ground for he's a marathon runner. He's like Brozovic, Barella. Those guys can run and run and run. So it'll be interesting to see. Juve have got a few important absences though. Obviously, we've got the Lord Danilo D'Ambrosio missing, which is a pain. Vecino, Pinamonti, not particularly big misses right now. But for them, Dybala, De Ligt, obviously two massive players missing out. Alexandro and Cuadrado, I believe, with COVID. Cuadrado he's an opinion splitting player for Juventus fans, but against the Inter, he's always really good. So I'm glad he's not playing. And overall, it still looks like a very strong team to me, the Juve lineup. But obviously, the big weak point, just as with us, their left-hand side, I think Frabotta, the few times I've seen him, he doesn't look that good to me. He doesn't look like a Juve level player to me, inexperienced. And the Chiellini, if he comes straight back in after injury, usually he does a good job. But, at his age, surely, he should be, that left-hand side should be the ones that Inter should be targeting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the key absence for Juve is De Ligt, because he's the best defender that they've got until Chiellini comes back, and Bonucci has been looking everything but good. I think Lukaku has to be, and Lautaro, they have to be going head-to-head against those two guys. It's interesting to see Chiesa's role and Chiesa's position, because, as I said, with Young and that side, either you attack and keep him down, or with Perisic, or you defend and cover. And Juve successfully against Milan used Chiesa on the right side against Theo Hernandez to expose him defensively and to score goals off that wing. I think with Inter is a bit different, because Hakimi is never more or less in a 1-versus-1 on the wing. He always has Skriniar who's there, and he always has a midfielder coming. So if Juve chooses to play Chiesa on the left wing, I think that might end up exposing Frabotta, because Chiesa isn't quicker than Hakimi on the break, and Frabotta in a 1-versus-1 versus Hakimi is deadly. So we'll see a bit about that. I think they might choose to limit that side and do their attacks on the Chiesa right side, but we'll see. It's interesting. More than that, I think if they recover from the COVID, Alexandro Cuadrado, they won't be 100% either. I think Cuadrado has had a great season until he got injured and COVID and everything and red carded or whatever it was. So it's a good Juve team. They got good players and they got winning players, and they're always good against Inter. It's Inter who's never good against Juve.
Yeah, exactly. We're the ones always flopping in this match. What do you make of, as Snudgeff said here, the potential Chiellini versus Lukaku battle?
Yeah, so that's something that I think Inter didn't do well last season, is to use Lukaku's physical strength in the duels against both Bonucci and Chiellini, because I'm not sure it's going to be Chiellini-Lukaku. And this is one of those games where, Lukaku has to get bad. It has to be ugly. It has to be dirty. It has to be elbows. It has to be yellow cards. It has to be tackled, because Chiellini and Bonucci played this game 100 times and they know what it's about. Lukaku in this type of game can become a bit invisible. So I'm really hoping that they can put it on the physical step and, activate both Lautaro and Lukaku, because when that happens, Inter are very good. So the Frabotta-Hakimi battle, I agree that Frabotta doesn't feel like Juve level player, but I've seen these guys come out in this game and do well so many times. I can't say that, he's going to do well. He's not going to do well. I think they have good players. They will all be good enough. And more than the 1-versus-1 between the head-to-head between the players, it'll be about the situations created. Because if Hakimi can come 1-versus-1 against Frabotta, that's deadly. But if he's 1-versus-2 because Inter doesn't manage to attack, he can't do anything. So that's we have to create the right situations for both Lukaku and Lautaro and Hakimi to be able to do crucial things. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, speaking of Lautaro Martinez, someone's calling him, needs to step up. Yeah, he's been a big talking point this season. He's so inconsistent. He's a frustrating player to watch at times, because how good he can be, but it just seems like some days he'll score 2 or 3 in one match and then he goes 4 or 5 matches without scoring. But usually he's reliable in big matches to me, because his work rate, and he seems to have that mentality of that Argentinian, I'll eat you alive type of mentality. But we need Lautaro. If at least one of those two guys has to step up, which seems to be the case this season. It doesn't seem like both of them step up at the same match. What do you think?
I think in this kind of game, Lautaro is very useful because he beats his man, not with dribbles necessary, but he can win the ball. He can move his body in the right way to get some space to do something, and that's crucial for this team, because there are so few players in this team that has those qualities. My problem with him this season is that he missed so many good chances. I think he should have buried at least 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more goals, and that's something to work on. But he's there, he gets the chances, he plays well. I'm not worried about Lautaro, and I think he's the guy in attack that I expect to do something extra.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you here. Let's get a few more the viewers, see what they say. And obviously the one that this guy was in even before we started, saying, have mercy on Handa, Sia. So if you don't know, Sia is very famous for his being anti-Handanovic over the years. Let's say I think that's the best way to put it. Well, what's your thoughts on your reputation on Handanovic?
Yeah, I think I might be sometimes too much exaggeratedly drawn as a Handanovic hater. I don't hate him. I just criticized him when nobody did, and I think a lot of the criticism is valid, and so that's that. I really hope Handanovic has mercy on us tomorrow, because his history against Juventus is really, really bad. Really, really bad. So I just hope that he can show that he's a Serie A level goalkeeper, an Inter level goalkeeper, and be there and save the team sometimes, because he will be needed tomorrow.
What do you think of this comment here? He will stay with us until he's 40 as the first keeper.
How old is he now? Like 36, 37.
36, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 4 more years. I will have gray hair after 2 years.
Yeah. My God. I can't take one more year of Handanovic anymore now. There's 4 more. I can't even imagine that. Got Lucio. What's up, man? Got you guys. Like,
Yeah,
nice,
no,
nice stream.
he needs to do something good.
Yeah. As Eve said, Ashley should start instead of Dar and then sub Darmian in. I'm not sure. I prefer
opposite.
Darmian.
I'd go
Sorry?
opposite way around.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's better.
Zizo says, on paper, should we beat Juve? I think Juve on paper are still slight favourites. I think obviously they're missing Dybala and De Ligt, so I think that would have made them definite favourites. I think it's more even after those misses, Alexandro and Cuadrado as well. I think it makes it more, on paper, it makes it more even. But as Sia said, we're the ones who flopped this match, even though on paper sometimes we look superior. Like last year, I remember, we were gassing our midfield, Brozovic, Barella, Sensi, and then they came to San Siro with Matuidi, Khedira, and Pjanic, and they killed our midfield. Matuidi taught Barella a lesson last year. I remember.
Got injured that match. So Inter were good for 30 minutes. Then he got injured, and that's where his injury problems started. So that was the key, to Inter's game, because after he went out, it was just over. But I think detail that's fun to think about. I would have been safe with Dybala, even though he's always good against Inter. But Morata is really good at getting the most out of CR7.
Yeah.
So I think Morata being back is not good at all for Inter, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. He had to play 120 minutes straight after his injury against Genoa in the Coppa Italia. So I'm expecting. I was watching a Juve preview on a different channel, and they said Kulusevski might even start because Morata might not be fully fit still. So even if Kulusevski start up from Ronaldo, that would be an interesting combination. Those two guys. I don't think they've played too much together, but. I'm a big fan of Kulusevski, and I know you are. What do you think? What do you think of him?
I like him in the striker's position. I think he plays on the wing, and now Chiesa is so good that he's been on the bench. But I really like him in the striker's position because he puts in work. He can beat his man. He's obviously fired up after last season when Inter beat his Parma, and he said, I'll be having the last laugh, because he knew he was going to Juve and stuff like that. So he's probably fired up, and he likes this kind of game. He has that kind of mentality. So hopefully, I hope he doesn't start. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because Morata is a really good player. Kulusevski is a really good player. And I think for our defense, it's actually worse with Kulusevski because he's a dribbler, right? He can do the dribble, and Morata is more running into space. So no matter what we do, there's two really good players with two different qualities that are doing really well, and that can hurt Inter in a way.
Yeah, no, spot on. He does scare me 1v1, and yeah, he's got that. He's very he's a bit like Chiesa. He's a bit of a dick, Kulusevski. He gets under people's skin, and yeah, I remember those quotes from last year. And to me, he's the real deal. A lot of people were talking about AC Milan with the Tonali signing, but I was more gutted when Juve signed Kulusevski because I feel like especially for Conte, I think he's like a perfect Conte type player. Like he's a machine, physically speaking, and he's very adaptable. But yeah, hopefully he doesn't start or doesn't turn up tomorrow. Terong says we don't have problem scoring. The problem is the defense. Yeah, this season, we're the top scoring team in Serie A, but compared to last year, our defense numbers are awful. I think we've conceded 10 or 11 more goals than last season, which is a lot of goals to concede. So I'm not expecting a clean sheet for sure. This team just can't keep a clean sheet by the sound of it. Who do you guys got for Holloway versus Katanga? Is that boxing? I don't really follow boxing that much. Sport 231. Vivek, my guy. The winner of this game will have a huge psychological capacity over the other through the season. What do you guys think? Yeah, of course. This is why there's such a big match, because this is where, as I said, this is where I'm judging Inter this season, these type of matches. So if Inter lose once again, that's it. I think that's it for the Scudetto hopes for me. What do you think, Sia?
I think this team desperately needs a signal that they can do it. and this is the type of game that shows you that you can, because you don't win a Scudetto in a single game, but a single game like this one, a big one against the biggest rival, if you win it, you can get that kind of positivity and belief that the players need to go the extra mile.
Yeah,
I think if you lose this, then, there's going to be a lot of negativity in that group. There's going to be a lot of players who say, no, we're not good enough. And that's a big problem. So I think this game is actually worth more for Inter than it is for Juve. Juve would actually just show that, they're boss. But for Inter, it would actually mean that they show that, you can rely on us. We're going to be there. We're going to be in the race. It's going to be a big race, and we're going to be there. And we know how to do it, because in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the other teams are going to be playing in Europe, and we're not going to be there. But if we're not, if we're not good enough, then it doesn't matter that they're not playing in Europe. So today or tomorrow, Inter is showing if they belong there or not, because otherwise, you go for top 4, and that's that.
Yeah. See, and Handanovic boxing match needed. Would you be down for that charity match?
He wouldn't move. Laser eyes don't work.
Yeah, just trying to. How crucial? That's a good question. We saw there was a graphic a few days ago when they showed Juve's bench versus AC Milan's bench when they played, and Juve brought on like 150 millions worth of talent off the bench. What do you make of Inter subs versus Juve subs?
I think, it's funny because in the beginning of the season, people were saying that this championship wasn't, even because Inter had a better bench. And now that Conte used his bench against Roma, he lost into the game.
Yeah.
So, not draw the game, but lost the point. So it really matters on the game and what you bring on, because I think against Juve is not so much down to the physical status, because all the players are going to be fired up and want to play it. I think the subs are more crucial in games like, against Turin at home, where Inter could bring in some really fresh players to just run havoc. Of course, it's good to have, Sanchez if you need some difference in attack. It's good to have Eriksen. It's good to have Gagliardini. I don't know, Perisic. It's good to have some options off the bench if you need to do something, because Inter is very much about the plan A. And then when plan A isn't working, you have to do something else. You have to put in, fresh legs, fresh power, fresh ball-winning midfielder. So it's always good, but I'm not sure that's going to be the crucial part of this game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But hopefully, if we are in a losing situation or, drawing at the moment, hope, Conte makes the right substitution at the right time, doesn't wait till sometimes he waits until the 75th, 80th minute seems to be his mark of like waking up and doing something. So hopefully, tomorrow he uses the bench. If, we ever got the chance, if we're losing, bring on Sanchez, you don't try to, show that you want to win this game, and if we're winning, please just don't go and sit back. Don't go for the 5-4-1.
Exactly, because people rightfully said, well, if Conte would have brought on attackers and Inter would have lost anyway, he would have been criticized anyway. But I think fans, at least me personally speaking, I would have preferred, for the idea to be, I brought on Sanchez. I tried to keep the team high in the opposition half. It didn't work. I'm fine with that. And because of that, that shows that you learned from your mistakes. I'm not fine with, the 5-4-1 because it hasn't worked against Napoli. It might work tomorrow, who knows? But, if it doesn't work twice, please don't try it again, because this team isn't to be relied on when they have to lie down and defend. They really don't know how to do that. So I rather see them try to, keep the ball, keep ball playing players on the field and counterattack, but don't fall into your penalty area.
Yeah, no, spot on, man. Yeah, we're all expecting big things from Lukaku, as I can see from the comments. If Conte gets outcoached by Pirlo this year, we should forget our chances for the Scudetto. Yeah, exactly. Pirlo was making wine just a few months ago, so if he's outcoaching Conte a few months into his coaching career, it's not a good sign. Hope Lukaku bodies Bonucci. Yeah, Bonucci has been a little bit of a weak point for Juve this season. A few matches I've watched, he doesn't look. I mean, he's never been the best 1v1 defender anyway, but with his advancing age, he doesn't look as good anymore. So hopefully Lautaro, Lukaku, one of them can try, target him a little bit.
Yeah.
Ash says Conte will go with Perisic. Nah, I don't think he will start. He doesn't seem like he's won over Conte, especially defensively speaking. Playing Perisic is a crime against humanity. Is a bit of exaggeration.
Against Fiorentina, it was probably one of the best players on the pitch in
Yeah.
the cup, and I think it just comes down to the balance again. Do you want to attack the left side, or do you want to keep Chiesa limited? Because Chiesa is dangerous. He can shoot with his left, he can shoot with his right, he can cross, he can do 1-2. So it's a very dangerous player to have.
Yeah. Rumors about Suning selling. Oh, we'll be here for ages if we start talking about this. But what's your quick thoughts on the Suning situation?
It's a bit complicated, right? Because they've been Inter's owner for 4 years. They've been pumping in big amount of money. They've been restabilizing financially this club and brought them back to Champions League. They managed to sign, big coach like Conte, big player like Lukaku, big player like Eriksen. I think they were in timing wise. Inter was supposed to explode this season, right? With main sponsor and big money coming in, and then the pandemic happened, so the timing was just very bad for Inter, because Milan at least were finding themselves in a situation where COVID or not COVID, the financial situation were going to be the same, but Inter took on big costs, and then the pandemic came, so the timing was really bad. I think Suning, they are very depending on what happens in China. And if the Communist Party, chooses that there's no more investments in foreign businesses going to happen, Suning can't do a lot, because we have to remember Suning is in a crisis, Inter is in a crisis, and it's not an economy crisis, it's a liquidity crisis. The cash now is not coming in because of multiple reasons. The stadiums are closed. The TV broadcasters don't want to pay their money, and so on. And Suning has problems moving money from China. So I think if they are finding themselves in a situation where Inter won't serve them, and because they bought Inter wanting to market Suning in Europe, they wanted to create stores in Italy, they want to bring their brand to Europe. But if that's not going to be the case for the core business in the coming 5 years, I think they might think of selling. And seeing that Inter needs liquidity now, I think, and they can't fix it via China, I think that's why they're probably putting a part of the club or the whole club up for sale. So it makes sense to me, and I don't really care if we change owners and stuff. For me, the important thing is that Inter's well-being, and the companies that they're talking about for me seem legit. So if they sell a majority part, they sell a majority part. If they sell a minority part to get the cash needed in, they do that. The important thing for me is that the team performs, because these situations are very difficult usually for the players to handle.
Yeah. They did ask Conte if this is, affecting the players, and he said that we're focusing on the pitch, but it's hard to focus on the pitch when your wages haven't been paid for a few months, and there's rumors going around that no one's going to be coming in, no one's going out, no big signings, nothing. So I'm sure some of those players are definitely thinking about this kind of stuff. So hopefully it gets resolved quickly. But yeah, as you said, it doesn't really matter who the owner is, as long as they're serious, they've got a good project. And as you said, those company BC Partners, they're, from what I read, like the biggest investment fund in the world. So yeah. I'm sure
usually that type of company, they usually invest in projects that they can go on to sell, and they won't be able to sell with a profit if Inter isn't doing well, if Inter isn't making money, if Inter isn't financially stable. So it can be a good way to go. I would prefer for Suning to stay, but if they can't do what they want to do, it doesn't make sense. So if BC Partners buys a minority stake and then goes on to take over the club, or the opposite way around, that Suning sells the majority stake and then buys it back, we'll see. I think you just need to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. Let's take a few more, and then we can let you go. Inter win tomorrow. If Inter win tomorrow, are we automatic favorite for the Scudetto, as Eriksen would say?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Not automatic favorites, because I think this season there are many teams that are doing well at that, are showing good things, but they have shown that they will be there to compete. Yes, and I think the team needs that signal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Juve, even if we win, Juve is still favorites for the Scudetto or Scudetto. Dario says, if Conte gets outmanaged by a guy who started his management journey over 8 months ago, then we have problems. Yeah, as just as we said. Joseph says we need to start strong right away tomorrow and remanage Sensi as a super sub. If it continues to go ultra defensive like Roma, we're doomed. Yeah, that's one little bit of an issue this season, how we start matches. I mean, when I watch the team, they start fine, but statistically we do start slowly. So I don't know what the actual issue is, but we do definitely
let in a goal on the first shot every time.
Yeah. We don't know what that could be due to, but
I don't think Conte gets outmanaged by Pirlo. It's on this level, two teams that know each other so well.
Yeah,
there are very few things that they don't know about each other. In the end, it comes down to the individual quality, the beating your man, the individual quality, the set pieces, the small details that do it. So outmanaged by Pirlo, I don't think so until it comes to the subs. But he has to go hard, otherwise we're going home.
Yeah, no, I agree. But got some neutrals in this area. Sit down, check those guys out. They said we just want to see some goals as neutrals. Yeah, don't worry. I think there will be some goals. I can expect.
Both Inter and Juve are quite similar in this, right? Because Juve, when you watched them last years, you felt this team can defend for 200 minutes and not let a goal in. But this year, you just feel you can score on Juve, and that's the same for Inter. You can score on these two teams. So I also think that there will be goals.
Yeah, even though Juve have the best defense in the league by statistic, but when I watch them play, they don't look particularly safe. And I think Szczesny has saved them a lot of times. And as you can see in the predicted lineups on the bar below, I couldn't be bothered to spell Szczesny's name properly. Oh yeah, did you see? I did a tweet before about Vidal. I put a poll saying, "How is Vidal getting sent off versus Juve?" And the overwhelming winner was he's gonna 2-foot Federico Chiesa, which I think is a pretty spot on. I think that's very realistic scenario of him getting sent off.
Hoping, that he's experienced enough to not do a thing like that against his old team. But I just hope. I've seen him, tweet stuff before games. El Clasico was always like that. Him writing, fired up for the big game, and then getting a red card. It's just he can't afford that tomorrow.
No. Simone, domani si vince. Yes, Simone. If Inter loses Conte out, no. Conte is not out, and he definitely not now that this whole ownership situation is going on as well. Even if we're like in the relegation zone, he wouldn't go out because of the salary at the moment. Big up, thanks, man. Thank you. Any last questions? I don't know about you guys, but with Darmian recovered, he needs to start over Young. Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be able to contain Chiesa physically better as well. But yeah, do you want to just finish out on your predictions, bro? I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw. I think we're gonna improve from our last two matches against them, but still not able to hold the lead at some point. I think we'll give away a goal in the last few minutes or something, and it'll be a 2-2 draw.
I was going for 2-2, but I have to go with 1-1 then, because I don't like predicting wins or losses before this game. I would just rather not. But I think 2-1 Inter, I have to say it, and just to be a bit positive. But I think there will be goals. I think the team that scores the first goal is going to have a big advantage because these teams both expose themselves, are not very safe in defense. I think that's going to be key. So I hope that can be Hakimi spinning someone around and scoring one. So I'm going with that, and hopefully Lautaro gets a good goal because he likes this kind of match.
Yeah, no Lautaro. We need El Toro Martinez, and no Lukaku. We don't need We need the big game player. But yeah, thanks, man. See, I've kept you longer than we expected, but thank you very much. Is there anything you want to plug or anything you want to say at the end?
I just hope Handanovic will perform. I really hope so. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, definitely, bro. But thank you once again, man, for joining me. It was very, very good to have you. Lots of good insight. And everyone else, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I see there's 37, 38 people watching this live. So make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And yeah, hopefully to see you for a positive post-match reaction, man. Thank you, everyone. And Forza Inter.
Thanks. Take care.